Help, help!
Hello, who is this and how can I help you?
Copy that. We're on approach to Sector 7.
Drag the snake and make sure it leaves the horse.
It happened in broad daylight, a scene so shocking that even the birds froze mid-song. The rescue team had just 10 minutes before the python's deadly coils squeezed the final breath from Spirit, the autistic horse who'd never trusted a human until that moment. The sun blazed high above the open pasture, throwing silver light over the dry grass. Emma's voice rang through the air, sharp, panicked. "Carlos, get the rope, now!" Carlos sprinted across the field, dust clouding his boots. Dr. Reed fumbled with the tranquilizer gun, hands trembling under the heat. The serpent's scale shimmered like molten gold in the sunlight as it wound around Spirit's body, every muscle alive, every coil tightening with crushing intent. Spirit's scream tore through the stillness, echoing across the sanctuary. There was no time for hesitation, no shadow to hide in, only the burning glare of day and a choice between life and death. Because in that wide, open field, surrounded by sunshine and blue sky, nature had shown its cruelest face. And for Spirit, the horse who once feared a simple touch, would come from the very humans he could barely bear to trust.
Spirit was unlike any horse Sunrise Haven had ever rescued. He'd been born with a unique condition that made him hypersensitive to sound, touch, and sudden movement. The vets called it a form of equine autism. To Spirit, the world was too loud, too bright, too unpredictable. When Emma first met him, he refused to let anyone near. If someone reached out to brush his mane, he'd bolt. If a bucket clanged or a gate creaked, he'd tremble and hide. Yet beneath his unease, there was a gentleness, a quiet intelligence that seemed to wait for a reason to trust. Emma, the sanctuary's lead trainer, believed that reason could be love. She spent hours sitting outside his paddock, reading softly from children's books, letting her voice become part of the safe world he was slowly building. Carlos, the handler, was her opposite. Steady, strong, the kind of man who could calm a bull with a single word. He built fences, hauled hay, and kept the animals grounded. Dr. Reed, the veterinarian, was the mind behind the heart. Clinical, careful, and precise. Together, the three of them ran Sunrise Haven, a rescue sanctuary sitting peacefully at the edge of a sprawling tropical forest. For months, life there was calm. The mornings were filled with laughter, feeding routines, and the rhythm of hooves against dry earth. Spirit had begun making progress. Small steps, small touches, a nuzzle here, a nod there. But then the forest began to change. Birds that once filled the air with song vanished. The monkeys grew restless, chattering from faraway trees but never entering the sanctuary. Even the breeze that usually carried the scent of flowers felt heavier. Spirit noticed first. He'd stand near the fence, staring into the tree line, his ears flicking, nostrils flaring, body tense. Emma tried to laugh it off. "You're just being cautious, aren't you, boy?" she'd whisper. But deep down, something told her he wasn't imagining it. And that forest, green and glimmering under the sun, was about to deliver a nightmare no one expected. The first sign came quietly. One morning, a goat went missing. Then another, and another. No feathers, no blood, just the soft imprint of something massive sliding across the dirt. Carlos discovered the trail near the mango grove. "That's not a dog or a wildcat," he said, crouching low. "Whatever made this, it's big, real big." Dr. Reed set up motion cameras facing the forest. The following afternoon, when they checked the footage, Emma felt her stomach drop. There, for only a few seconds, the camera had caught a shimmering form gliding through the sunlight. A long, fluid body, thick as a tree trunk. Carlos muttered, "That's a python." Reed shook his head. "Not possible. Pythons don't get that large here." But the villagers nearby had already started whispering. They spoke of Naga Raja, the Serpent King, a python said to rule the deep forest. Farmers told stories of vanishing calves, of scales glinting in the sunlight, of shadows that slithered silently even when the sun stood high. Emma rolled her eyes at first. "Stories," she said, "just old myths." But as she looked toward the forest that afternoon, she couldn't ignore Spirit's behavior. He refused to graze, muscles trembling, eyes locked on the trees. The sanctuary fell into an eerie rhythm of caution. The team reinforced the fences, checked on the animals twice daily, and kept a close watch. And yet, in the blazing stillness of one summer afternoon, the silence deepened again. Too thick, too absolute. What would you do if you saw a 25-foot python gliding across your field in broad daylight? Because that question was about to become their reality.
It happened at midday. The air shimmered with heat, and cicadas screamed from the trees. Emma was cleaning Spirit's water trough when a sudden burst of frightened whinnies shattered the peace. She turned, heart pounding. Spirit was gone. She ran toward the pasture, shouting his name. "Spirit, where are you?" The sound came again, a deep, pained cry. Through the glare, she saw the flash of movement near the tree line, a writhing shape, a violent struggle of dust and muscle. "Carlos! Reed! Over here!" They sprinted toward her, but nothing could prepare them for what they saw. The python was enormous, gleaming like polished bronze under the sun. It had already wrapped itself around Spirit's midsection, its body rising and falling in rhythmic constriction. Spirit's legs kicked wildly, hooves striking the ground in panic. Carlos froze for half a heartbeat. "That thing's huge," he breathed. "We can't just—" "Move!" Emma shouted, grabbing a shovel from the fence. Dr. Reed raised the tranquilizer gun, his fingers slick with sweat. "I need a clear shot." The serpent hissed, a deep, guttural sound that vibrated in the chest. Its head swung toward them, mouth slightly open, tongue tasting the air. Carlos circled wide, looking for an opening. The sunlight flashed off the serpent's eyes, ancient, golden, unblinking. Emma called out softly, desperate, "Spirit, listen to me, boy. Stay still. Don't fight it." But Spirit's cries grew weaker as the coils tightened, squeezing harder, harder, until the sound faded into a strangled gasp. Dr. Reed fired the dart. It missed, sinking uselessly into the dirt. "Reload!" Carlos yelled. "Now!" The ground shook as Spirit collapsed to one knee, foam at his mouth, his chest heaving. Emma's heart cracked. "No! No! No! Stay with me!" And as the world held its breath beneath the blazing sun, everything went still. They had one chance. Carlos ran forward, gripping the snake's tail with both hands, bracing his boots into the dirt. "Emma, hold his head steady." Emma fell beside Spirit, pressing her forehead to his. "You're okay, boy. You're okay. Stay with me." The python coiled tighter, its scales grinding against Spirit's flesh. Carlos grunted, straining against its weight. "Reed, now!" The vet aimed again. This time his hands were steady. Years of practice honed to one perfect breath. The dart flew. It hit. The serpent's body convulsed. The tranquilizer began to take hold, slowly, agonizingly slowly. Emma whispered to Spirit, her voice trembling. "Breathe. Please, just breathe." Spirit's chest rose faintly. He blinked once, weak but aware. He could hear her. He trusted her. Carlos held the tail as the python thrashed one final time, narrowly missing his arm with its snapping jaws. He dove aside, landing hard on the dirt. "Got it!" Reed shouted. "It's going under!" Within seconds, the snake's strength began to fade. The coils loosened, one, then another, and finally the last fell slack. Emma sobbed, cradling Spirit's head in her lap. Dr. Reed checked his breathing, faint but there. "He's alive! By some miracle, he's alive!" For the first time, Spirit wasn't afraid of human touch. He knew, in his heart, that they were there to save him. The python lay motionless under the afternoon sun, tranquilized but unharmed. Carlos sank to the ground, gasping for air. Dust streaked across his face. "Never seen anything like that," he muttered. "Never." Wildlife officers arrived within the hour, lifting the giant creature onto a truck for relocation deep into the protected reserve. No one wanted to harm it, only to move it somewhere it could live free. Emma stood beside Spirit as the truck rumbled away. "It's over," she whispered. "You're safe." Spirit leaned gently into her touch. The horse who once shied away from even a whisper now sought her hand. The sunlight glinted off his coat as he took a deep, shuddering breath and began to rise. The entire team stood silent, watching him regain his footing, the sound of life itself returning to the air. Would you have been brave enough to face the world's largest snake to save an innocent life? Because for Emma, Carlos, and Dr. Reed, courage had never looked brighter. Spirit's recovery took weeks, but every sunrise brought new light to his eyes. Emma brushed his coat under the warm morning sun, humming softly as he leaned into her touch. Dr. Reed checked his pulse, smiling. "Stronger every day," he said. Carlos laughed from the fence line. "You two are inseparable now." It was true. Spirit followed Emma everywhere, to the feed shed, the water trough, even to the pasture dates. The horse who once lived in silence now sought companionship. Their story spread quickly. A nearby villager had recorded the rescue on his phone. The video went viral within days. Millions watched as the sanctuary team fought to save one horse's life under the unforgiving sun. The comments poured in. People wept. Donations flooded the sanctuary. Schools played the video in assemblies about bravery and kindness. Spirit became a symbol, a living testament to the power of patience, love, and teamwork. One afternoon, as the wind rustled through the mango trees, Emma felt a gentle nudge at her shoulder. She turned and smiled. "Hey, boy," she whispered. Spirit pressed his muzzle against her cheek, breathing softly. Sometimes healing doesn't come from medicine. It comes from trust, from knowing someone won't give up on you. The sun dipped low, painting the field gold, and for the first time in his life, Spirit galloped freely, mane catching the light. Spirit's story reminds us that courage doesn't always live in the shadows. Sometimes it shines brightest beneath the sun. But life at Sunrise Haven never stayed quiet for long. 2 months later, strange tracks appeared near the watering hole. Claw marks deep and wide, and feathers scattered across the grass. Emma frowned. "Please don't tell me it's another python." Carlos shook his head. "No, this looks like something else." Dr. Reed leaned closer. "Whatever it is," he said softly, "it's not afraid of daylight either." No one expected what would happen next when the sky itself brought the danger.
If you believe every life deserves a second chance, hit the like button and join our community of rescuers by subscribing, because every act of compassion, every brave choice, keeps hope alive.